We're uniquely poised to make further concrete contribution to Brics cooperation through our deliberations. Furthermore, the global geopolitical realities make a meeting of this nature not only necessary, but very timely. We meet in the face of multilateralism under siege when the integrity of international agreements can be easily and hastily, expeditiously compromised, when more and more countries take an inward-looking position at the expense of others. South Africa remains deeply committed to the multilateral diplomacy that all of us believe in principle, and in our demonstrable actions we live it out. Sense in the United Nations system, our regional interactions, and in particular to our close collaboration in Brics. The Brics Forum must reassert its collective responsibility of providing new perspectives and solutions to the current international order, as we work collectively not only in our interests, but also in the interests of our shared global community. We must do so with a view to protecting the sacred and shared values of multilateralism, international law that underpin our union together. We meet at a time when the world is undergoing serious seismic changes in many spheres. The strife in Turkey, the migration to Europe, the intensification of conflict in Israel and Palestine, the reemergence of national protectionism that threatens multilateralism, etc., etc. We also have our fair share of problems in Africa, which we'll discuss later. The evolving world in which we live requires us to keep track with multifaceted and dynamic changes that are occurring. We're also beholden to our resolutions and ensuring that we realize them in this changing world. This year marks the 10th anniversary of the establishment of Brics. New multilateral forum holds hope for most of developing countries. It is fortuitous for us in South Africa that the chairpersonship of this forum and of Brics is happening at a time when we celebrate our icon Nelson Mandela's 100th anniversary. Throughout the year, we will honor the life and legacy of our leader, a distinguished global statesman and father of our nation. We're excessively proud that out of the deplorable inhuman conditions that this country has gone through, we, as a country, were able to produce one as he. The life of this remarkable human being urges us to recall that nothing is impossible to achieve, no matter the magnitude of the task and irrespective of how daunting it may seem to be from time to time. South Africa's Brics chairpersonship of 2018 is thus anchored in this belief. We intend to build on the legacy of Madiba, as well as the achievements of the past decades of Brics summits, in order to further enhance Brics cooperation in the next decade that will guide our countries and peoples, as well as those of the global south, into the new era of the fourth industrial revolution in a way that maximizes opportunities and minimizes threats, and especially in an era where we seek prosperity for all, inclusivity, equality, good governance, and economic development. Colleagues, I'm encouraged that this platform is now open for all.
Как вы только что сказали, что председательство Южноафриканской Республики в Пятерке приходится на год столетней годовщины со дня рождения Нельсона Манделы, великий сын Южноафрики.
Nelson Mandela. He's a great son of South Africa. He devoted
Стал главной фигурой процесса национального принятия. Он был большим другом.
He was also a great friend to the Russian Federation and to the Soviet Union. The principles of the wise Mandela, that is equality, honesty, and justice, are close not only to people in Africa, but all over the world. And these principles and values are defended by Brics today when we try to resolve the task of forming an equal and just system of international relationships. The uniqueness of our group is to build truly partner relationships between various parts of the world and various continents. Brics is one of those few international institutions which seeks to strengthen stability, trust, and predictability on the global level. We promote a positive agenda. We stick to the culture of finding mutually acceptable compromises on the basis of de-ideologized approaches, multilateral approaches and collective work, we are ready to respond to our common challenges, be it terrorism, drug trafficking, climate change, or new challenges in information security. Our group stands firm when we defend the basic principles of the UN Charter, first of all, the sovereign equality of states and the non-interference into internal affairs. We stick to the principles of indivisible security in all of its dimensions and the collective methods of crisis resolutions through political and diplomatic means. Moreover, we stick to multilaterality, the inacceptance of military interventions, unilateral economic enforcement measures, protectionism, and unjust competition. We have similar approaches to key global issues. We are also of the same opinion of the unacceptability of the review of the outcomes of the Second World War. And it's good to see that our full format meetings are now annual, just like the September meetings on the margins of the General Assembly in New York. And today, just on the eve of the Brics Summit in Johannesburg from the 25th to the 27th of July, to compare our notes and to prepare the documents which would be considered by the heads of states. We can also believe that our joint statement for the media would be a major contribution to the summit. We will also carry out the review of the strategic partnership of Brics in all of the key areas, that is the political, economic and humanitarian areas. I would like to welcome the initiative presented by the South African chair on considering such important topics as the use of the achievements of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, combating terrorism, joint production of vaccines, and comparing our approaches to peacekeeping operations. We believe that the Russian initiative adopted by the leaders of our countries to prepare a five-party agreement on international security would be supported at this meeting today and then at the summit. I would like to remind you that we want to promote the initiatives on the creation of the platform of energy research and the Women Business Alliance of Brics. At the coming stages, we might think about creating a Women Diplomatic Alliance, especially considering that we are working together in this department. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister Lavrov. We will consider the women's wing of Brics. I now recognize Ms. Minister Sushma Swaraj of India.
Madam Didve Sisulu, Excellency Mr. Sergey Lavrov, Excellency Mr. Wangi, Excellency Mr. Marcos Gaumavu. At the outset, let me warmly welcome Minister Sisulu to the Brics family. I also thank you, Minister Sisulu, for chairing this meeting and for your gracious hospitality and warm welcome to me and my delegation. It's a rare privilege for me to be in this beautiful land of Madiba, especially when we are all celebrating his birth anniversary. Ours is a big global family. Coexistence and shared destiny are our common beliefs. I'm confident that the visions of our great leaders such as Gandhi, Mandela and Martin Luther will continue to guide us in our common endeavors. Excellencies, the Brics had begun with the foreign ministers' customary meeting on UNGA margins in 2006. Ever since, we have had productive exchanges on the margins of UNGA in taking stock of global political affairs. I commend South Africa for convening the second standalone meeting of Brics foreign ministers. I am confident our deliberations here will contribute towards enriching intra-Brics cooperation further. Excellencies, our meeting today takes place at a time when multilateralism, international trade, and rules-based world order face strong headwinds. Though the global growth has exhibited signs of recovery, the challenges to long-term growth continue to persist. Ensuring that the benefits of globalization are shared widely remains our challenge. Brics countries have contributed to global stability and growth in a world drifting towards uncertainty. We have played an important role in shaping the global economic and political architecture. Excellencies, BRICS cooperation has since expanded substantially in political, economic, and security spheres. Our leaders meet twice each year at summit level. BRICS NSA's mechanism has consolidated our cooperation in counter-terrorism and security domain. BRICS special envoys are shortly expected to convene a meeting to deliberate on the situation in the Middle East. Excellencies, during Goa BRICS Summit, we had laid special emphasis in strengthening people's dimension of BRICS. I'm happy to note the initiatives during India's chairmanship on films, sports, youth and tradition gave us a robust mandate on counter-terrorism at Shaman BRICS Summit. Modi had given a call for a BRICS counter-terrorism strategy for joint action with a focus on money laundering, cyberspace, and de-radicalization as our priorities. Our leaders have also called for making UN Charter terrorism framework efficient and effective. We reiterate our commitment, our leaders' mandate on counter-terrorism under South Africa's BRICS chairmanship. BRICS cooperation in strategic areas of security, counter-terrorism, UN reforms, peacekeeping, de-radicalization, cyber-security, energy security, global governance, and international and regional hotspot issues are deliberated in detail during our NSA's meetings. It is imperative now that the common ground reached in our NSA's meeting on setting up a BRICS Security Forum is implemented fully. Excellencies, in less than 2 months from now, our leaders will meet in Johannesburg for the 10th BRICS Summit. Our deliberations today are therefore significant in preparing the groundwork for a successful Johannesburg BRICS Summit. India welcomes South Africa's summit theme, devoted to development in Africa in an inclusive manner. We also welcome the focus on technology as the engine of future growth and its significance for future generations and their employment prospects. Madam Chair, I thank South Africa for tabling the proposals on tourism, medicines, governance, and science park network. Yoga and Ayurveda system of India's traditional medicines will make BRICS tourism endeavors even more attractive. The new development bank and the contingent reserve arrangements are flagship BRICS initiatives. We must consolidate their functioning further and optimize their outcomes. Excellencies, India attaches importance to the role of BRICS in consolidating intra-BRICS cooperation and in international affairs. I am more than confident under South Africa's able chairship, this initiative will be carried to new heights. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much, Minister Swaraj. I now recognize the Honorable State Councillor, Mr. Wang Yi, Minister of Foreign Affairs of China.
Под председательством президента Рамафосы
of the BRICS has worked to promote cooperation, strengthen BRICS partnership, and played a leadership role. In July this year, the BRICS leaders will meet in Johannesburg. This will be the second time for the leaders to meet in South Africa. I'm convinced that under the meticulous organization of South Africa and in the spirit of Nelson Mandela, the Johannesburg summit will be a full success. China will give full support to South Africa's chairmanship. This foreign ministers' meeting is also held to prepare for this summit. Looking back, in 2006, we had the first foreign ministers' meeting during the UNGA. We have turned an economic concept on paper into real actions of solidarity and cooperation. Over 12 years, BRICS cooperation has been improved and refined. We've had a more solid foundation and broader scope of cooperation. We opened up a new chapter of South-South cooperation. Last year, we established the 3 pillars of economic, trade and financial cooperation, political and security cooperation, and people-to-people exchange, demonstrating strong vitality of BRICS cooperation. This is a new page in our history and has made BRICS a positive, reliable, and constructive force in international affairs for positive energies. We're now undergoing changes that we haven't seen in 100 years. The poverty and injustice, wars and chaos are far from being eliminated. Unilateralism and protectionism are escalating. Zero-sum game and law of the jungle still has followers, but peace, development, and women cooperation remain the mainstream of our times and the aspiration of people of all countries. In such a time, BRICS countries must stand at the forefront of the global trend, respond to people's aspirations, and make the right choice. We must speak strongly for multilateralism and the purposes and principles of the UN Charter. Looking forward, we need to open up a second golden decade for BRICS cooperation and substantiate our strategic partnership. We need to form a community with a shared future, featuring convergent interests and close friendship. We need to deepen the cooperation, dig into new driver forces for growth, and focus on innovation. We need to stick to dialogue and consultation, deepen strategic mutual trust, and set an example of interstate relations. We need to be open and inclusive and continue to develop BRICS Plus cooperation and expand our network of partnerships. We must always uphold justice and equality in the international community and always represent the developing countries' legitimate concerns and uphold the common interest of developing countries. BRICS cooperation is a great cause. There is great prospect for the second golden decade of BRICS. Let's work together hand in hand and look forward to having in-depth discussion with my colleagues on various items of the agenda. Thank you.
Found out that it needed a new political steering system and a broader base of resources in order to overcome the situation it had been put into. As we know, this was achieved by bringing more people into the driver's seat, by shifting gears from the G7 into the G20. In the financial sector, beginning in the G20 context, the BRICS contributed to making more representative the Bretton Woods institutions and others, such as the Financial Stability Board and the Basel Committee on Banking Supervision, where emerging economies had never had a seat before. As then Vice Minister of Finance for International Affairs, I was directly involved in these changes between 2008, January, and December 2010. The BRICS initiative and pressure were instrumental for the approval of the 2010 IMF quota reform, which resulted in slightly but significantly increased decision-making power for emerging economies in the fund. The new Development Bank and the Contingency Reserve Agreement were stronger and more concrete milestones that epitomize the sort of change the BRICS want to effect on global governance. Our goal never was and is not to compete or duplicate existing governance institutions. What we want is to reform and complement them, create new institutions that are more representative of actual reality and thus more legitimate and capable of responding to our development needs. In the political sphere, the BRICS have consistently championed multilateralism. Equally, along the lines I just mentioned, the BRICS has constantly reaffirmed the need for a comprehensive reform of the United Nations, including its Security Council, with a view to making it more representative, effective, and efficient. Let us hope that the world will not need another global crisis to reach this conclusion, to mobilize the necessary political will in favor of change. Some critics may argue, and do argue, that our 5 countries are too different to transform diplomatic discourse into concrete policymaking. On the contrary, I have always argued over the last 10 years that our strength lies precisely in our diversity, as it allows us to approach common problems from many possible angles. Our decisions have always been taken on the basis of consensus, and it is of the essence of our essence that we continue to work on the basis of convergence while taking into account our diversity. Before concluding, let me assure you, Minister Sisulu, that you can continue to count on Brazil's full support in order that the South African presidency may fulfill even more smoothly the goals it has put forward. We have no doubt that you will be completely successful in this endeavor. I wish us all a very productive meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister. Honourable Ministers, my appreciation to all of you for the most valuable contributions that you have made. We'll now allow the media to leave, and we would like to thank the media for their attendance.